Welcome into another edition of Make Every Second Count Live with me, your host and award-winning Make Every Second Count speaker, Jeff Marconette Jr. Now, each and every time I say that, I am excited, and each and every time I get on here to do this show, I'm excited because I bring you people that are amazing, people that just are able to affect the world in so many different ways. And tonight's guest is no different. But first of all, I ask you if you would please share this episode out. Invite as many people as you can to watch it. In fact, tag some people in the comments. I would love that. And I also ask you if you would hit that like button. Let us know that you're feeling what we're talking about. You're seeing yourself in our shoes. And then also keep the comments coming. We want to have more of a conversation than just make a presentation. So we'd love seeing your comments. But with no further ado, I would like to bring to the stage the myth, the legend, Rebekah Tucker. Hey, how are you doing, Rebekah?
I'm good, Jeff. And I'm sorry to correct you. It's Tucker, not Turner, but you know what? The myth, the legend, all the things. I will take it all. It's
darn
fantastic.
It's
okay.
I messed that up too.
You're fine.
Can't believe I did that. Because I know your last name is Tucker. I even wrote it in the show title, and it's like I still messed it up.
It's okay.
Jeez.
So, I love the intro though. That's perfect.
That's awesome. So while you were going through your introduction, I'm going to be inviting a few people on my phone because we want to have people in here. All right?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. So if you tell everybody who you are, where you're from, and what you do, that would be amazing. And hi, Robert Brooker. Thank you so much for watching. He says, hi, Jeff. Hi, Rebekah. And then he also included the Lynn B. Stone. So,
yes, sir. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am Rebekah Tucker. I am from Brunswick, Georgia. And in my daytime hours, my 9 to 5, I'm in human resources. So I do a lot of hiring of different personnel. When I'm not doing that, I am an author, I'm a workshop facilitator, and I'm sometimes a guest speaker. And I write under the pen name of Lynn B. Stone. And so that's the nutshell. I love doing that kind of stuff. I love having the conversation based on my personal experiences and just sharing that information with everyone else so that they can do great things in their lives.
Well, that's completely amazing. I like putting things in the simplest way. And I think the simplest way a lot of times is the nutshell. And I like your terminology there.
Yes, sir.
So I know personally from my own experiences that life has a tendency to put things in our way. Now, those things are not always made to stop us. They are made to make us adjust our course sometimes and go around them. But they can also force us to adjust our course and go up and over them. And a lot of people like to say, elevate yourself. But that's not really me. So those things are the opportunities for growth. And I do believe that we have to grow through things instead of just go through things. Because if we just go through those things, we're not going to learn the lesson that it is supposed to teach us. And we're probably going to repeat that same thing over and over again. So has there been anything in your life that you have had to grow through?
Yes, unfortunately. And, I say unfortunately, but it's a catch-22. So in 2015, my husband of 9 years had passed away. He was 43. I was 32 at the time. And we had 2 children living with us, our daughter together, who was 7, and his son to a previous marriage, who was 13. And then he had 2 other children to previous relationships that were older, that were adults. And so, his passing was very sudden. It was very unexpected. And it was one of those moments that it completely changes the trajectory of your life. Because you have, when you're with somebody, you have plans, you have these goals, you have these ideas, you have all these things that you wanted to do. And all of those things come to a screeching halt whenever that happens so quickly. And so for me, overcoming that as a younger person, as a younger widow. I mean, usually when you think of widows, you think of the older folks that are, in their 70s, 80s, 90s, not 30s. So it was a very isolating situation that I was going through, and trying to grieve, trying to help my children to grieve, trying to just continue living in a world that didn't care what we were going through. And so we went through that together, and we've grown through that together, because we had to become new people as a result of that. It greatly influenced who all of us have become as a result of that. Now, of course, 10 years later, it's much easier to look back and to see our growth than when you're actually going through it and you're making these little decisions.
It's extremely difficult to see the growth that is supposed to happen, or the growth that is happening while you are in the midst of something. But you have to have faith that one thing is there, that something that you're going to get out of that is happening, that you're learning at the same time of dealing with this thing.
Absolutely. And I think for all of us, it was just figuring out who we were again, like coming up with our own identities. And, at the time it was, for me, it was wife and mother. And, I kind of was absorbed in work, but it was mostly, we were a family and we did things as a family. So with him gone, I had to figure out who I was then. Like, what did I want out of life? What did I want to do? And the same for my children. It was just very impactful for all of us and just our family altogether.
Yeah. So, like, what did it make? Well, I know it made you feel horrible, but what exactly did that cause you to feel? I mean, did losing your husband be like, wow, what am I supposed to do now? Or how did you find yourself after losing your husband?
It took a while, because, whenever you experience such profound grief like that, it was complicated because of having children, and, and it was so sudden. It was very difficult to work through that. But I don't know if you've ever seen the bell curve for grief, but it starts here and kind of makes a big U. That's what they think it looks like, but in reality, it's like this. It's all over the place. Yeah. So it was a lot of that. I was angry. I was sad. I was, you could be all those emotions and as you're going through it. So finally, I think it was just time. Time is, I told my daughter, I said, failure is not an option. We have to keep going. I told myself that was kind of like my internal mantra. I was like, I cannot fail. I have to continue going for my kids, for myself, for my family. Like, I have to figure it out. I have to do it.
Something I believe is that unless we quit, we can't fail. Because if we keep moving forward, then we are actually winning. We are doing something, even if it's not the best thing in the world, even if it's not something that is going to help us, it's still moving us forward.
Absolutely. And there were plenty of times where I wanted to just stay in bed. I wanted to just, curl up in a little ball and just hope that the world, that the floor would just would swallow me whole. But, coming back to the reality of, I can't stay here. I can't stay in this place, even though I'm sad, even though I'm upset, even though I'm feeling all these things. I have to keep going forward for my kids, for my daughter, because, she was experiencing grief in her own way. And she was so young that she didn't really understand it. So she was still, and as she's gotten older, she continues to process her grief and her understanding of, just all of that. So, but absolutely, I mean, failure is quit, and quitting and just saying that you're done. So we just never did. We couldn't afford to.
That is good. I'm so happy that you kept moving forward and you didn't quit.
Absolutely.
So I know you mentioned that you had children at the time, and he had one child and you had one child together. Confusing, but
It is.
you had children that lived with you.
Yeah.
So how was it different for you compared to them in the loss of him?
Well, I think it was just the way that they interacted. So my stepson, like I said, he was 13 when his dad died. And, he died, and just for some backstory, because it makes a little more sense. It was the week before Easter, like the weekend before Easter. It was Palm Sunday when he died. So that whole week in between, we were doing all the preparation, all the planning, people were flying in, everything. So their father was buried on Good Friday. And then all of the kids, except for my daughter, boarded a plane and went elsewhere. So my youngest stepson, that next week was spring break. So we had already planned that he was going to go back to Pennsylvania to visit his mother for the week. That was always the plan. But, of course, whenever his dad died, she and I didn't really talk about it. Like we had already had the plane tickets purchased, like that was just what we were going to do, and put him on the plane, that he was going to go visit his mom for spring break, and that he was going to come back, but he didn't. And so, for him, I think it was double trauma for him, because he was basically plucked up out of his life here in Georgia and just dropped in Pennsylvania, into a new school and with new kids in a new environment. He was with his other siblings, but it just wasn't the same, because he was so comfortable here in Georgia with us. So his situation was much, much different. For my daughter, she and I were processing two losses at that point, because, of course, we lost her dad, my husband, but then we also lost her brother, my stepson. We had just become so nuclear in a way, and then it just got ripped apart. Just, we went from 4 to 2 in the matter of 2 weeks, and it was devastating. For her, because she was so young, she had a good support system. I mean, I will always cherish her kindergarten teacher, because it was her second grade teacher. First grade, I can't remember. Anyway, one of those grades. She was young. It was elementary school. It was her first grade teacher, because she was 6 turning 7. So she was first grade. And so her teacher had made, like, all the kids had made her made these banners and made her cards, and had given her this box, and it was her dad box. And it was so cool, because she could put all of her things that reminded her of her dad in this box. And to this day, she still has this box. It's very, very special to her. So it was really, really cool. But, I put her in therapy and counseling. I put myself in therapy and counseling, because I knew that that's what we needed. We needed to be able to work through this, to get through this, whatever it took, because, grief, if you don't deal with it, it will manifest its way in other ways. It'll come out as really bad habits or bad behaviors or whatever in children. And so, it's just really important to get that under control as quickly as we could. So, I mean, there were times through her, as she was growing up, especially in her adolescence, where we had to go back to the therapist. Like, she had kind of graduated, if you will, and then we went back. And then she graduated, and then she was like, okay, I'm good. And then something else happened. Then she went back, so we continued to have that open line of communication, to make sure that we were all on good places.
That's good. So what exactly did this all these experiences, what exactly did it teach you?
Well, it taught me that life is way too short, and it can and it can end at any second. It can just happen. Yep, just like that, just like that. And I think for me, just to not take it for granted. You know, to if you're thinking something, some people are like, oh, I really, they have these thoughts about people, like, oh, I really like that guy, he's really cool, but we don't, very rarely do we tell them that. And I think sometimes it's important that, we just become a little bit bolder and just say, hey, I think you're really cool. I think you're a great person. Just actually saying what you're thinking and just sharing your thoughts and sharing your ideas, because sometimes we don't do that, and then something happens. And then, like, man, I didn't have a chance to tell them how much I appreciated them. I didn't get a chance to tell them, how much I love them and how much of a difference they made in my life. And so I think for me, that was one of the takeaways from my experiences, is how important it is just to live and embrace the day, and to make sure that everyone knows where you stand with them.
That was awesome. And no, guys, we did not plan that. But that whole thing right there sounded like a thing that I would say for make every second count. But so I know that this has also taught you some other things. Some things about lessons about things that you can do after someone's passing.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
this is kind of an uncomfortable talking point for people, and myself included. But we need to prepare for when we leave this earth.
Yeah.
So, what did it teach you about the importance of planning for it?
I think for me, well, and when my husband passed, just backstory, just real quick, we didn't have anything planned. We had conversations. That was the extent of it. I knew kind of some ideas of what he liked and what he wanted, but that was it. So I think for me going forward, it's very important that, I get those things outlined, like that I make the plans, that I, have all the things figured out as far as what I want, that I want to be cremated, and for me personally, like, I want to be split. And, like, I want to be cremated and I want to be split. Half of me can be with my first husband, with my husband that passed away. And then the other half can be with my wherever I'm at in my life, like if I'm with someone, or, if I'm not with, just put them with my daughter, whoever, like that they're with somebody. So that was, that was a big one for me, making sure that all the plans, like just getting all the plans figured out, and doing a will, coming up with your power of attorney, your durable power of attorney, and your medical power of attorney, and making sure that all of your plans are figured out, doing your, what is it? Like your five, what's that? I'm sorry.
Doing your shoot?
Yeah, doing your shoot. yeah, that thing. I'm trying to remember the name of it. The 5 wishes. Oh, I'm sorry. The advance directive. There it is. Where you kind of say, this is how I want to be treated if something happens to me, if I'm incapacitated, if I have a car accident like what you had, if I'm on a ventilator and I can't speak, this is how I want to happen. And some people say, I don't want to be a vegetable. Okay, well, make sure you put that in paper, like write that down, get it signed, so that, and you give it to the family members that you have, who are authorized to make those decisions for you, and that way your wishes are known. So making, like, just having all that stuff established and finalized, that has been the biggest takeaway for me. That's what I have focused on the most since all of this.
So let's say somebody out there that is watching this right now, or the replay, has lost someone in their life.
Mm-hmm.
What are the, say, top 3 ways that you can help someone deal with it?
Well, I think depending on how recent it is, if it's recent, I think that sometimes, we have this tendency to want to say, I'm thinking of you. If you need anything, let me know. I mean, that's a common one, right? We always offer that as kind of I'm here if you need me, and then nothing ever happens. Well, that's because we don't know what we need. whenever, as a widow, we don't, we're processing our grief. We're walking in a fog. So rather than say, um, just let me know if you need something, say, hey, Karen, I'm going to the grocery store. Can I pick you up some milk? Do you need some bread? What can I get for you? Like, just being more deliberate about those actions.
Wow.
Or bringing dinner to them and saying, hey, we went over here. I'm just bringing you some food. If you don't want to eat it now, that's fine. Stick it in the freezer. That way you have a meal to eat. Being very, very intentional. If a woman has lost her husband and, it looks like the grass is growing out of control, go over there and mow it. Just take care of it. Like, some people feel like, oh, well, I don't want to upset them. Listen, we don't, just do it, because that was one of my things. Like, I was perfectly capable of doing it, but I just didn't have the energy to do it because I was so consumed in my grief and in what I was doing that I just couldn't deal with it. Now, no one volunteered to do that for me. I had to hire someone to do it, but that's just one of those things. Like, if someone has a dog or someone has kids, oh my gosh, if someone has kids, and they just lost their spouse, hey, I know you're going through some stuff. I'll take the kids out. We'll go to a movie, especially if you have kids and they're friends. Be like, hey, I'm going to take your kids. We're just going to go to a movie. That way you have some you time. Go do whatever you need to do. Like, just being very intentional and being honest and thinking about those thoughts and how you can help somebody in those ways that are so practical and so useful and so necessary and needed, things that people just don't even think about because they're so afraid. Well, I don't want to offend them. I don't want to, don't worry about that. Trust me, as a widow that really could have used that kind of support, I would have greatly appreciated that. Someone volunteered to do something for me versus me having to say, hey, could you keep her for a minute while I go do this? Or, hey, it just make the effort, put it out there and let them bite.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you said that you sent your daughter to therapy.
I did.
Did you go through any therapy?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I think I was in therapy for 3 or 4 years. I actually was in therapy until my therapist's husband had gotten ill. And then like she had kind of stepped away. So I was going until she stopped. But at that point I felt like I was in a good place. I had kind of worked through my grief and I was working through the idea of moving forward and getting over, those thoughts. And so I felt like I was in a good place for that.
So how has this event affected you in positive ways?
Well, it has helped me to become more of who I was meant to be. I've always been a little bit of a spitfire, but I kind of had it tempered because, my husband and I were, we worked very well together and I didn't need to be. And then, when he passed, I had to come into my own. I had to be my own, I don't want to say savior, but savior essentially. Like I was only going to save myself. No one was coming to save me. So, that really, I became very, very strong and independent in that I had to. So I look at that as a good thing, because that is what pulled me through everything that, I've got my daughter through everything, my kids, we still have a great relationship and, we talk and look back and I can help them continue moving forward and make suggestions. So I think that's positive in a way. I mean, if you're going to look at the silver lining of it.
Yeah. So is the rest of your family, are you guys close? I mean, were they there to support you in the loss?
Yeah, my family's pretty close. I think our biggest issue is distance. So, my family, my parents and my sister, they're in Pennsylvania. My stepkids, one's in Michigan, the other one's in Pennsylvania. And so, we relied heavily on my husband's family, his parents and his sisters and their families. And actually we still are very close with them. and we'll be going down to see them tomorrow. So it'll be, they've been very supportive. And if I needed anything, I knew that I could call them and they would help. We would go down, shoot. It seemed like we went down there every week or every other week for the long, like there at the very beginning, just so that we had that connection, because we were just feeling so lost. And that's actually where my husband's buried as well. So we would go down and visit him, visit them, visit everybody while we were there, and then we would come back home. So it was, but yeah, the family's pretty close.
Man, I'm sorry about this. I like in 2016, I lost my mom.
Mhm.
And while it's not the same as losing your husband, well, I would have to lose a wife because I don't mess. Yeah, I'm not that way. Sorry. But that was extremely tough, and I had to rely on other people a lot to do all kinds of things. So I can kind of relate to you. Now, I know my dad lost his wife at that time. So I'm sure you two could relate to one another pretty well. But I'm not in the same shoes as you, but I respect everything that you've gone through and the fact that you've come out stronger. And that's what I want people out there to get, that each and every person goes through something in their life.
Absolutely.
And it can either help us grow or force us back, like where we're not living. But we all go through something. So why not take somebody else's advice about how to do things? Because there are so many people in the world right now that have gone through the same thing you're going through. And I'm not talking to just you, Rebekah. I'm talking to everybody out there. Because there's somebody that has written a book about it. I guarantee it. There's somebody that has a podcast about it. I guarantee it. You just have to look for it. You just have to find those little nuggets of goodness in every situation, and then you can move forward. But I need everybody out there, including you, Rebekah, to do me wait a minute. Forgot one thing. So, do you have any contact information you would like people to have?
Sure. I can be found on Amazon. That's where I have my book. It's Till Death Do Us Part is the name of the book. I also have an author profile there. So if you look up Lynn B. Stone, or look up the book, or look up both in the search, it should come up there. I'm also on Facebook. Author Lynn B. Stone is my handle, and you can hit me up there. And then you can also look at my website, www.authorlynnbstone.com altogether. So Lynn B. Stone is what you're looking for.
Yeah, Lynn B. Stone.
Yes,
So
sir.
I also want to point out that my dad is watching, and he is watching from across the street right now. So people have been popping on and off the whole time we've been on, but Robert Brooker from Canada has been on the whole time. So shout out, Robert. I'm so happy you were on here tonight. And please look up author Lynn B. Stone. And you guys, including you, Rebekah, have to do me a favor.
Okay.
You have to make every second count.
Absolutely.
Why? Because you never know when the seconds will run out on your one life. That's all you get.
That's right. Absolutely. 100%.
And I'll see you back here next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. And until then, you have a great week. Thanks, guys. Bye. Thanks, Rebekah.
Thank you.